Yeah, the world was much more static. So, for instance, when we installed MDTs, they were preloaded with the large map files, and they just didn't get updated very often, just because of this limitation. Software, um, we were kind of limited how often we could release software. It just because of the difficulty of updating. Somebody potentially had a USB stick and they had to drive around. So you didn't want to do frequent releases as people are used to now, right? Where you could have, if not daily, but I mean, you could have a release every other week of software so that you
Yeah,
can
that's
do.
a great question. So what were the risks in doing that, right? So I'm operating with less than current software. What does that mean?
Well, you are not taking advantage of the latest features that, we continuously keep improving the end-to-end, the overall solution based on our customers' requirements and suggestions. And so we want to be nimble and fast responding. But if the frequency was, every 6 months or 12 months that you could, deliver new software, that kind of limited that responsiveness. And but it's also, you have ongoing information development of sorts, like you have new pre-plans for more buildings, right? Or you have updated map layers like fire hydrants, right? You are building new neighborhoods and there are new fire hydrants. So you need to be updating these files often. And so this just gives us the opportunity to keep everybody as current as possible.
Great. Yeah, I think that that's great. And I guess for the folks that are maybe in this space, in this industry, watching the audience, what would you say is sort of the most important criteria when you're evaluating solutions in this space? What would you have them look for based on your considerable experience delivering these kinds of solutions?
Yeah, there were several requirements that we had before we chose Resilio. One was the resiliency or the reliability of the distribution process across networks that are just by nature unstable, right? They vary in bandwidth, they can be interrupted, and I didn't want that to be a roadblock. So the mechanism where my understanding is that, you chop the big file into small chunks and they get downloaded, piecemeal, and then through complex, hash functions and other things, you verify the correctness of all the pieces, and then you paste them back together, and then you give me a signal, hey, this code is now completely downloaded to the MDT, and then my application can, invoke a notification to the end user and say, hey, look, when you are not in a critical situation, when you are back in the fire station, just push this button and your software will get updated. So the resiliency of the system over networks that are very unstable. That was one thing. The other thing was to be able to download large files. I mean, really large files that, these maps of entire states, those are hundreds of megabytes, and sometimes even bigger than that. How do I deliver that file without restarting 10 times, right? Because you don't want to be hogging the network either, because, you need to send dispatches and some more important information than large data files. The other thing I was looking for is, if I need to address, we have some customers that have thousands of vehicles, and if I need to send a large file to 1,000 of them, I would need a huge data center with a huge pipe to be able to serve that audience, and the system would become very expensive. The way my understanding of how Resilio works, it actually uses the peer-to-peer networking mechanisms where I may deliver the file to one fire engine at a fire station, and if there are 3 other engines around, they can actually now deliver it to each other, and therefore they are sharing local networks as opposed to requiring an expensive data center. So that was very important. And the last thing was, I'm not only delivering files to the vehicles, I want to be able to upload files from the vehicles, whether it's log files so that I can analyze potential issues, or I can predict a potential failure if I proactively look at these log files and look for error messages or something like that. Or I can be bringing statistics of, how quickly did I get to an incident, and how, on average, am I improving in response time? I can do a lot, or not the fire departments can do a lot with data that they can potentially collect. So I wanted a two-way communication. So these were the kind of the criteria I had.
Great. So just to replay that, sort of a fault tolerance, resilience, the ability to be efficient, incredibly efficient with limited resources, and to offer departments the flexibility to future-proof their operations. Whatever their data needs are in the future, they've made an investment in a platform that is able to meet those demands and chart the future of public safety.